I came across this concept called Craction. It's the letter C, the letter R, action.com, Craction.com. It's very...
Is that because it's addicting like crack?
I get the feeling that it is. And I don't think this is necessarily a substitute for fantasy football, but it can be, or it can be used in conjunction with. Leagues are free, so I started digging on this thing, and I realized that the founder was a UWM graduate. He developed this while he was in college, looking for something a little different alongside fantasy football. So I thought, well, geez, we got to bring this guy on. So on the line with us right now is Scott Schmidt, local guy, grew up in New Berlin, developed Craction.com, and I think this is like the new wave of fantasy sports. Scott, welcome to the program.
Thanks a lot, Greg. I appreciate you guys having me on tonight.
Absolutely. So you got to give us the download here. What are the cliff notes of Craction? If I'm signing up for this thing, what am I getting myself into?
Sure, absolutely. You know, when I created the game of Craction, it was all about creating a simpler, easier game for kind of the average fan. And when I say the average fan, you know, the fan that doesn't have 20 or 30 hours a week to dedicate to managing rosters and participating in drafts. And, you know, is someone in my league going to, you know, make a trade where, you know, I'm going to somehow have to make a trade? And all of a sudden now it just became a part-time job. So when I was in college and we were getting ready to graduate and all my buddies were moving across the country, I wanted to create a game that could keep us connected but also didn't require a lot of time. So came up with the idea of Craction, and it just quickly spread. And what started on Microsoft Excel spreadsheets quickly turned into a business. And it's been great. It's all about making sports more fun to watch and again, not having that time commitment that, you know, traditional fantasy sports has.
Now, if you sign up for this, I know there's math involved because the example that you give, you know, is if Green Bay is, you know, getting, or if Chicago's getting 3 points and you pick Green Bay, then you get 11 points. But if you pick Chicago, you lose 11 points. I don't even know how you got to that point of 11 points. So does the website do that for you? Does it add up your points for you?
I suppose we should back up a little bit and explain. I guess the root of the game is not picking players, it's picking games. And I guess you pick against the Craction line, which would, you know, be like a Vegas sports line. And depending how you pick, depending how the team does, you could win points or you could lose points. Can you help us break that down and understand it a little more, Scott?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's all about the simplicity. And instead of, you know, me having to have people track, you know, quarterbacks around the country or running backs or tight ends, I thought, let's get back to the root of what makes sports awesome, and that's wins and losses. And so I wanted my game to be revolved around that. So simply put, you have your Craction line, again, very similar to a Vegas line, where the Green Bay Packers, let's say they're favored by 3 points over Chicago. And you get to choose 5 teams each week against the whole entire league's action for that weekend. So let's say we take Green Bay and they win, 14-3. So you take the margin of victory, which at that point in time would be 11. You subtract out the 3 points, and you get 8 points had you taken Green Bay. Now, you can also lose points. Had you taken Chicago, you would have actually lost those points. So throughout the year, there's a lot of different strategies that come into play. You know, do you want to pick favorites? Do you want to pick underdogs? If you're farther down in the standings and you have to make a run at somebody, maybe you go a little bit out there on the edge and take some big underdogs and hope they, spring an upset. So it just creates a lot of different scenarios. It's very volatile. On any given weekend, you might be up 50 or 60 points in all your games, and by the end of the game, you might be down to being only up 20 or 30 points. So it's kind of interesting to see how your score goes up and down throughout the day.
Talking with Scott Schmidt, the founder of Craction.com. It is the next evolution of fantasy sports. So, all right, let's say that you, myself, and Trenny, we're all in a league, and it's the NFL. It's week number 1 of the NFL season. I'm going to pick 5 games and choose what I think is going to be the winner against the spread. You are going to do the same, Trenny, and Scott, you're going to do the same. So I could win, conceivably, all 5 of my games against the spread. And maybe they're narrow differences. Let's say each one is a 1-point victory for me. I would get, in that instance, 5 points. If you have one game, Trenny, where you pick with the spread, Green Bay is favored by 3, and they win by 30, all of a sudden you get 27 Craction points. So it can change that quickly. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, that's exactly the way it goes. And, that's kind of the interesting part about the game is you could have an average week in terms of wins and losses, but if those wins had a lot of points, you could have a great week in the standings. So, yeah, I mean, it's really, like I said, it's volatile. We promote blowouts. We like the big blowouts. And again, with every point of every game matter, we want you to watch those Monday night games between the Arizona Cardinals and the San Francisco 49ers. From both teams are 2-7, and you could care less, but we're up in the state of Wisconsin, and it's cold outside, and we're not doing anything. But now all of a sudden that Monday night football game means something to us, and it might be the difference between me jumping ahead of you for first place or vice versa. So, again, every point matters. We really want to create this unique, simple game for the average fan to enjoy.
How many? So you have teams. I went to your View Leagues, and you have all these different teams with team names, just like you would in fantasy football. Does each team have a number then of members? Like 20 Pick'em is the first one on here. So is 20 Pick'em playing against 2011 Roll Tide and 619 Mendota Court? Are they playing against everyone in this one league, or do you kind of form your own league? Like say if Greg and I started an office one, would we play against each other? Do we play against everyone on the site?
Yeah, what you see on the site right now is actually individual leagues that are being formed by private individuals or sports bars or businesses across the country. And each one of those leagues are their own separate competition. So one league might be a private league just for you and Greg, and you might have some of your friends in it, or there might be a public league like Maddie's Bar and Grill in New Berlin, where they'll have over 200 people. And you just compete against the people that are within your own league. We do have a grand prize league that you can join. I think it says the Craction Grand Prize NFL League. And the winner of that one, we actually do give away a trip to Vegas for our kind of Craction Champions Weekend that we do in March. So, yeah, to answer your question, each one of those leagues that you see are their own separate league that they compete against each other within that league, not against anybody else.
So sold. Let's start a league, buddy.
It's very cool. So it's free to start a league, but there is a plus-up option. Tell me about that, Scott. Also tell me about the charitable component.
Sure, absolutely. Next week, we're going to launch what we call our Pro membership. And what it simply does is we sell these Craction power bands. And we're going right now throughout the country and locally here in Milwaukee, partnering up with businesses, sports bars, and those partners are actually giving discounts to anybody that purchases a Pro membership. And like I said before, you get this power band, you get a Craction T-shirt, but also we do give some of our proceeds to the National Veterans Summer Sports Clinic out in San Diego that they do at the end of September. And what it does is it basically helps veterans coming back from tours of duty get back into the sports scene. If they lost a leg or an arm, what they do is they raise money to get them back on the field and make sure that they continue to enjoy sports just as they had prior to going to service for us. So from my perspective, I think it's really good to tie our business and what we're doing back to a good charitable cause. And I feel very fortunate. I've got a lot of family members that are in the service or have volunteered for the service. So from our perspective, we really wanted to give back to a great charity, and we're excited to do that this year.
This is really cool. I'm not going to lie. It's really cool.
Oh, I love it. I think it's a brilliant idea, and, brilliant ideas do come out of UWM, the state of Wisconsin, locally right in our backyard. This is genius. Actually, I forgot where I was going to go at the end of this.
I do have a question because social media is so big. Where can people find you? Can they find you on Twitter? Can they find you on Facebook? And your website, if you can give the website so people know exactly how they can contact you.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now we're on Facebook and Twitter. Our website address is www.craction.com, and that's CRACTION.com. And then I believe on Facebook and Twitter, it'd just be facebook.com/Craction, and same thing for Twitter. So, yeah, we're excited. I mean, I love growing up in this town. We have great sports fans, and we're all busy. We're all hard workers. So it was imperative that I created a game for all of us to enjoy, and that's really what it's all about, the love of sports and connecting with people, and I hope that this game does that for everybody out there.
There you are. Following you on Twitter, buddy.
So let the site do all the math for you, Trini. It does the math for you. All you have to do is set up your own league. I'm playing around on the site right now. It's very cool site. Build your own league. Let it do the math for you. Pick the games that you want to watch or that you want to I guess in your mind bet on. They'll do the league management for you. You and your friends, you set up your own prize system. If you want to play for Miller Lights, if you want to play for Buffalo Wild Wings, whatever you want to do, you figure it out, just like you would a fantasy football league. Scott, this is very cool, but I'm also seeing that football's not the only sport that you guys are involved with. This goes a little bit deeper, so Craction doesn't have to stop when the football season stops.
Exactly. I think one of the things that is a big difference between us and traditional fantasy sports is we do have college components here. We will have a college top 25 league, which hopefully means this year we'll be able to bet on the Badgers every week. hopefully with everything that we're hearing out of Madison. But we also have college basketball. We've got NBA basketball. We're going to do a Major League Baseball one next summer, which we're really excited about. It's all about picking teams for a weekend series. So, again, we want to keep it simple, but we do want to give people the opportunity to play Craction year-round in different different sports.
This is very cool, and you don't have to do it right at the start of the year. I mean, you can hop into this at any time with any sport. This is very, very cool. Scott Schmidt, I really appreciate your time. Go to Craction.com if you haven't heard of it. It's very interesting. Follow them on Twitter if you're in the social media scene, and learn about this thing. Once you get on the site and see it, you're going to dig it. I absolutely love this. Scott, appreciate your time, man, and we will talk to you down the road. I hope things go well.
I appreciate it, Greg. Thanks, Greg. Trini, have a great night.
Thank you too.
Thank you, too.